Shooting guard of the Chicago Bulls, Jaden Ivey, has been waived by the Chicago Bulls for his comments in regards to the LGBTQ community. He did a rant on his Instagram, made some comments about the community, basically saying that the NBA is wrong for celebrating this because it celebrates unrighteousness. He also, in the same rant, um, in another clip, he said something about Steph Curry, basically saying Steph Curry is not a devout Christian. He got Philippians written on the shoe, but I think he uses profanity on the court. And he was saying like the championships and the rings and the Hall of Fame, none of that's gonna matter on Judgment Day. Here's the thing, with Ivy, man. First of all, he has a right to freedom of speech. You can't take that away from him. I'm all for anybody that wants to represent their beliefs, what they believe in strongly, because we got the right to do that. So no criticism is warranted for that. I don't think nobody deserves to lose their job for freedom of speech because we all got a right to it. However, that was a recent actor, Xavier Smalls, I believe is his name. He's casted on Beauty and Black, under the Tyler Perry umbrella of the show, and he said something else recently on Instagram about like the LGBTQ community, and he was saying like they're gonna go to hell for being gay, and this was insane for him to say, for the simple fact that he plays a character that's spoiled by a homosexual on the show. I just think, man, people need to learn how to read the room. And also, you have to understand that when you're involved in certain lines of work, you're going to deal with certain things that don't align with your faith, The world is the world for a reason. And there are people that follow the light, and there's people that follow, the other side. You got to understand that. And people that follow Christ and are Christians, you can't always think because the sin you're not committing, that's the only way you're gonna go to hell. Now, I will say this about Ivy. He admitted that, he admitted some of his sins, and I respect that. He was saying like, he's somewhat porn, and all he cared about was the NBA and winning, and he was a fornicator. So I respect that he took accountability for his sins. But attacking that community, man, that's not the only thing that's gonna send you to hell. Like we every sin is viewed equally. And I just think people always want to go after the certain sins to attack people. And sometimes it could be a crime because that's something that you committed, but you just haven't came out and said. Not saying that about him. I'm just saying it about other people. Like the actor on Beauty and Black. I'm like, if you feel that strong about saying like these people are going to go to hell, why would you partake in a show that's celebrating that and showcasing homosexuality? That's a huge contradiction. I also just believe that sometimes, man, when people have these awakenings or they come in, they make a shift in their life with their faith, sometimes there's a thin line between losing their mind and also just, having an awakening. And I don't know, it kind of seems like to me he might kind of be like losing his marbles just a little bit. And they always say like, there's a dark side to fame and having all this money and things that people see. And we see this time and time again, seem like with people that, make it into these kind of spaces. I just think the timing, the delivery, all of that, could have been done a little better. I still don't understand why you had to bring up Steph Curry, because if you're gonna use this card about saying you're a follower of Christ, you can't judge nobody, man. And are you saying this because you want to see people change their lives for the better, or are you just attacking something that you're not doing? It's just tricky, man. But he definitely has a right, to say what he wants to say. And I ain't mad at what he said because, I believe in the Bible as well. And, but I don't believe in attacking or even, publicly saying something about one specific sin when I know there's sins I'm committing. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's kind of going through some things. He even put up another video where he said his wife hasn't been responding, to his phone calls or text messages, and she's not communicating with him, and his family think he going crazy. And it's like, bro, you ain't gotta get on Instagram and say all these things. You could go to a church, get involved in a Bible study or anything dealing with the youth and things like that, and you can express what the Bible has to say. But you have a job. Your job is to play basketball. You know what I'm saying? That's what your job is. And you need to be led by God to say certain things. Sometimes people think because they saying the truth, well, I said that wrong. You need to be led by God to speak about certain things, especially certain topics that could affect your livelihood and your family and things like that, because you got to speak with wisdom, man. You got to know how to read the room. You just can't come out and say things just because that's what's on your mind. There's a way to go about things because, you signed to an entity that represents a lot of different kind of people, whether you like it or not. And when you under an umbrella like the NBA, you're not getting all them millions just to play basketball. There's certain things you can't say. There's certain things you can't do because they're trying to protect the brand. And it's the same way with your faith. Like, God wants us to move with discernment. And that's why I said I kind of believe, man, it could be some things going on with him psychologically, and the world could be, just tumbling down on him and he losing his marbles. I've seen this actually happen with other people. Like, I don't know. It's like when people think they woke or feel like they enlightened, they all go through this phase where they get online and just start calling out a bunch of stuff. I seen it with so many classmates. And it's like, I already know the playbook. This is the part where they willing to go back and forth with anybody, and they're going to say, yo, I'm standing on, the truth or whatever the case may be. But it's like, man, it's a way to go about this. That's all I'm saying. I just don't think he went about this the right way. I don't think it has nothing to do with his basketball talent. It's just people know when you kind of, losing your mind. When they sign you to these teams and things like that, and being detrimental to the team is now everybody has to answer questions about this. Coaches and managers, anybody involved with the Bulls organization, they got to deal with your thoughts, and it's like you need to leave that away from work. I understand it. I mean, is it right? Hey, man, that's life, That's why they say you got to know how to read the room. But those are just my 2 cents on it, man.